So today we're here with Delegate Mark Sickles. Would you like to talk a little more about yourself and what you do?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Sickles. Third Delegate District, which is all in Fairfax County, south of Alexandria City, between there and precincts in Lorton. The new districts are renumbered that the special masters drew for us. They're easy to go look at and find in my district now is 17, and it's a little bit more compact, about 6 miles by 6 miles, containing 86,000 Virginians. I have, just for point of reference, Hayfield Secondary School and Edison and Lewis High School are my primary high schools in my old and new district. And it's a great place to live. We have a lot of commuters here. We have the end of the the end of the yellow line and the end of the blue line, which both go to the Pentagon. So we have a lot of military who live in the 43rd district. We also have pretty good bus service here too. So lots of commuters go to Fort Belvoir, which is, I have part of Fort Belvoir in my district. It's not known to many people, but Fort Belvoir is the largest single employment center in Fairfax County. Most of the people who work there for the 100 different defense agencies that have an office there live south of Fort Belvoir. They drive north. They come from Stafford County, Fredericksburg, even south of there maybe. And of course, many from Prince William County, our next door neighbor on the other side of the river, Occoquan River. So that's what my district looks like. I'm losing the auto train. The auto train is in my district now, will not be in the new 17th. Many people from the Mid-Atlantic drive here to put their car on a train and go to Disney World. So that's my district, and I've been serving there since 2004. I got elected in fall of 2003. Today, I serve on the Appropriations Committee, was chair of the Health, Welfare, and Institutions Committee, and in what we're talking about today, I'm the senior Democrat again on the Privileges and Elections Committee, where constitutional amendments originate in the House before they go to the full House and then in the state Senate. The constitutional amendments, by the way, are not signed by the governor, unlike a regular bill. They are have to pass in two different sessions of the General Assembly with a House of Delegates election in between. So it was very disappointing this year that our opportunity to repeal the Marshall-Newman Amendment that passed in 2006, and it passed its first reference when the Democrats, we were in control. We lost control last November. We could not get it out of committee this year on the second reference. Had we done that, it would have passed the Senate and been on the ballot this November for your approval or disapproval. And I know there's hundreds of thousands of people that weren't of voting age when this passed in 2006 that would like a chance to strip that language from our Constitution. It is really ugly. I don't have it in front of me, but it is worse than just marriage. It talks about anything that mimics marriage almost in any civil union would be illegal in Virginia. And that will, unlike the governor who made a gaffe on this last week, that will be the law in Virginia. It's constitutional. It's a constitutional provision should the Supreme Court overturn Obergefell. So we're in a precarious position. If you're interested in that subject, it is a precarious position to be in. And I can talk a little bit about what we're going to do about that, which is, of course, not confirmed. We're just what people are thinking right now, maybe a little bit later.
Yeah.
So it's a great job. You learn a lot of things that you don't think about in your regular life. Insurance regulation, building infrastructure, making sure we have a higher education system that's second to none, that we fund K-12 education and pre-K. Now we've really emphasized getting good pre-K education to at-risk 4-year-olds and now 3-year-olds too. We know they need it even probably before 3 in many cases, but moving to 3 is news. That's just happened now. And so that's what we're trying to make Virginia the best place to live and raise a family, and where there's equality across the land. And we have opposition to those basic ideals. But anyway, good to be with you.
Thank you so much. So I actually do have the Marshall-Newman Amendment in front of me. It states that only a union between one man and one woman may be a marriage valid in or recognized by this Commonwealth and its political subdivisions. This Commonwealth and its political subdivisions shall not create or recognize a legal status for relationships of unmarried individuals that intends to approximate the design, quality, significance, or effects of marriage, nor shall this Commonwealth or its political subdivisions create or recognize another union, partnership, or other legal status to which is assigned the rights, benefits, obligations, qualities, or effects of marriage. So it does more than just ban same-sex marriage. As you said earlier, it effectively removes the right to any form of legal union between same-sex individuals. And so since 2021, I believe that there's been attempts to repeal this Marshall-Newman Amendment and replace it with more inclusive language. So my first question for you is, how will this inclusive language benefit not only the LGBT community, but individuals as a whole?
Well, I think we have a societal interest in everyone being able to pursue happiness. That's what we were founded on. And to have that language you just read in our Constitution is really appalling. And so I think everyone benefits. Nobody, no straight couple, a man and woman, are harmed by a union or a partnership between two people of the same sex. Nobody is hurt by that. Only the people who enjoy the benefits of marriage. There's 1,000 benefits in law that come with marriage, and there are also obligations too that you have when you get married. And so obligations to children that come along and things like that. And so I do think that human beings naturally want to live their life with a partner, have somebody to share their life with, and that does not hurt anybody else. So I think everybody benefits by more people being happy. So that's I think that would be my main point on why it benefits everybody. There's many reasons why it benefits the couple themselves. Gay and lesbian people who have adopted children in the past have had to jump through many legal loopholes. You get lawyered up to try to approximate the protections a family has under the current law if you're married. And so that all those machinations go away with equality, with marriage equality. I think it's supported. I mean, it's been remarkable over my lifetime, the change in public opinion on this subject. When this passed in 2006, I was part of a group that opposed it, and we donated money to a campaign against it and this kind of thing. And and I said only passed with 57% vote. That is a lot of votes in today's world. But back then, if you would have asked me at the beginning of the campaign what it was going to pass by, I might have said 70%. I mean, I might have been said 75%, would not have surprised me. So in a way, only passing with 57% was, I want to say good. It's not good, but I thought it was going to be worse. And so the change in public opinion since 1986 has been dramatic. As I said, people's minds have changed. They know more gay and lesbian, transgender people. More people have become of voting age who grow up knowing their friends are gay and lesbian. They're not afraid of that. So it's a whole different mindset. It doesn't blow people's minds anymore. So that's been a societal change, and politics often follows societal change. I mean, it's rare that it leads. The politicians are following up the finger in the air to know what people are thinking, and there's a reason for that. People want to get elected, and you can't do any good if you're not elected. So that's why people still out there, particularly on the other side of the aisle, are scared of this issue. And I'd like to say that this should, like many issues of equality, this should not be a partisan issue. It shouldn't be a Republican or a Democratic issue. It should be fairness for everybody. And there may be people on this call who considers themselves conservatives, and conservatives should, in my mind, value stability in relationships, and value individual choice and what individual people want to do. I mean, our Constitution protects minorities. If it didn't protect minorities, we'd be like any other despotic rule around the world, And so it shouldn't be a partisan issue, but it is. I mean, that's what it come down to. I know in our 100-member House of Delegates right now, all 48 Democrats are going to be for repealing this Marshall-Newman amendment. There would not be one of our 48. When I started in 2004, that was not the case. We had, I'd say, 5 to 8 Democrats who would be so-called bad on this issue. That has changed over time. Now, you could not get the Democratic nomination probably anywhere in Virginia if you had the opposite view here. And so we even have used people's opposition to equality offensively in a campaign, not just defensively, not just talking to special groups about it. In 2013, when McAuliffe was running for governor with Lieutenant Governor candidate Ralph Northam and with Mark Herring, they brought up equality in every stump speech they made. And that's the first time I remember it being part of a campaign that was not, people had good policy views on this before that, but they would not make it part of their campaign. It wouldn't be part of their stump speech. They said at every Kiwanis Club and every time they spoke to a citizens association. That changed in 2013, in my view. It might have changed a little bit before that, but I just remembered in 2013 it being part of Terry McAuliffe's campaign for governor. And they governed that way. Unfortunately, he didn't have the votes in the legislature in his 4 years to change this. And of course, when we got control, the Democrats, when we got control in after the 2019 election, going into 2020, we had the votes. And if you look it up, largely partisan votes. Now, I did look up a vote the other day. We had a bad statute as well that passed in my second or third or fourth year in the General Assembly that was similar to the language that was just read to us in the Constitution, and it was in the code. And we repealed that in 2020, and there were 8 or 9 Republicans who voted to repeal that language. That was a good sign. I think they got backlash to that, and unfortunately, my guess is we wouldn't get that many today. I know we wouldn't. And but I do think that if the constitutional amendment in its second reference, which was killed in committee this past winter, if that had reached the House floor, I think it would have passed. I don't think it would have passed by a lot, maybe 51, 52, and then it would have passed the Senate. There's a handful of Republicans in the Senate that have a good voting record on this issue. And it would have been before all the voters this November had that, if we could have gotten it out of committee this past winter. So anyway, I'm sorry that it is a constitutional issue. We have to start over again. And I can talk a little bit about that when the time is right.
Yeah, so we can move and talk about that constitutional process. So how does a constitutional amendment come about?
Well, you just introduced the amendment like any bill. It has to pass both houses and then have an election in between of the House of Delegates. The senators have 4-year terms, so it is not a Senate election. It could be a Senate election, but with the House, but it would pass prior to the election. Everyone stands for re-election, and then we would bring it up the next winter. Then the next fall, when there's a general election, it would be on the ballot for voters to consider. Now that we're back to square one, part of the debate right now would be what to do this winter, because if we pass something this winter, and we have an election coming up in next fall on November 23, where the House of Delegates is on a ballot again in these new districts, and we pass in the winter of 2004, we passed the same thing. Then in November 2004, it would be before you to cast your vote. Now, how do we get something out of the committee like we could not do this time? And I think it will be hard no matter what we do. But in this past version that we had, we not only repealed the Marshall-Newman Amendment, we added a provision that gave Virginians an affirmative right to marry. And so for some people that went too far, we didn't expect to lose control. It was not a good year for us. And we, a lot of things contributed to that. We went from 55 members to 48. And so that there is thought that maybe instead of having the affirmative marry on the ballot, we would just strike that language that was read earlier. Just strike that language and then possibly come back later for a constitutional protection, or just put it in the code. Just pass it in the code of Virginia, the legal right to marry, and it would have the same effect. It would be less permanent, of course, than in the Constitution, but that might be a way to do it. We could have language in an amendment that does have an affirmative right to marriage, but have maybe a little bit tighter than last year's language. We've had some people complain that this is fantastical. I mean, it's laughable, but that the language we had last year would allow people to marry multiple people. That's what the Family Foundation was telling people at the end. And there was no language in there that said between two people. I guess the lawyers that worked on that language didn't think it was needed. There were a lot of people helping draft that, but that was something that people said. I think it was just an excuse because the Family Foundation of Virginia is not going to approve just striking the language. I mean, that's not. They will argue and lobby folks to oppose that. So that's where we are right now. And if somehow we got a miracle and we could strike the language, simply do that this winter. We go into session the second Wednesday in January. We'll be there for 6 weeks. And then if we do it during that period, then we'll have an election and we'll have to come back the winter of 2024 and do it again. So that's how you amend the Constitution in Virginia.
Perfect. So along with marriage equality, what additional protections or rights for LGBT individuals would you like to see in the Constitution?
In the Constitution? Well, I mean, I think maybe not getting into specifics in the Constitution, but maybe we need an amendment that just clarifies that we need equality for people. And we did pass the Equal Rights Amendment. Whether we became a 38th state, which would out to put the Equal Rights Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. We have a similar amendment like that in the state constitution now. I'm not sure it's used that often, but I think we did a lot of things in the code during the 2 years that we were in majority. We banned therapy, conversion therapy. That bill had been 7 or 8 years. We banned that. We created a LGBTQ plus advisory committee. that has been in the paper a little bit because the new governor has appointed people to it. What else did we do? We had several. We made sure that that LGBTQ people were represented on various meaningful task forces and work in councils and advisory committees. So we did insert the words to protect sexual orientation in the code. A lot. Every time there was a list of things that you're protected from discrimination on, we had words throughout the code. So those are some things we did. I'm not sure we need more constitutional amendments, but other than just a woman and person, a non-binary person or whatever is protected by the Virginia law. We did. I mean, the biggest thing we passed was employment, housing, and public accommodations protections, becoming the 21st state in the country to have those. It is similar to what has been pending on Capitol Hill, the Equality Act, for years and years. And so we were the first state in the South to have those protections. They tried to repeal them this year already when it's the ink was fairly dry on it. They tried to. Right now, they're trying to say that that bill that we passed violates people's religious freedom under First Amendment. And the Supreme Court, up until now, this court has not bought that. There's a ministerial exception, like nobody would, under the Constitution, should or be forced to marry people that is against their religious belief. That there's no question about that. If you have a religious institution, though, there is a question on how deep in your employment should you be allowed to discriminate because of your religion. Should you be allowed to discriminate against a cafeteria worker, someone who's on the landscape crew, the band teacher? People have no function of teaching religion. And I say no, you shouldn't be able to. That's what the bill was all about, to prevent that kind of discrimination and not being able to use religion as an excuse to discriminate against people. So that we're going to probably see a lot of action in that area. There has been some litigation, and the Supreme Court has narrowed the ministerial exemption a little bit. The cake baking case in Colorado and things like that. So if you guys have anyone listening has an idea for a constitutional amendment that we need to make sense, please let us know. We'll take a look at it.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Was there anything else that you'd like to talk about before we wrap up here?
Well, it's very important that everybody vote. I mean, last year, we told everybody this was at stake. This constitutional amendment and another one that we had offering automatic restoration of rights for people who serve their time in to society in prison. When they come out, they would automatically get their voting rights restored. Right now, we're one of two states where that's totally up to the governor. The governor can decide, who to restore their rights and who not to. And I'm sure that would have passed, but that failed as well. So, vote. A lot of people think voting doesn't make a difference. What difference does my vote make? And if everyone thought like that, we would be in deep doo-doo. We need everybody. We need everybody voting. I mean, look at this. Freedom of choice now is on the ballot in next year. I mean, are we gonna ban abortions in this state like they've done in Oklahoma or Texas? I mean, my Republican colleagues would do that in a heartbeat if they could. And we are going to make sure that Virginia's law, which is good on this subject now, it stays intact. So that's why you should talk to all your friends and neighbors and family members and say, this off-year election, these are important. And a lot of, people vote for president and then they don't come back for another 4 years. In Virginia, we have elections every year. And in the odd years, they're for people that affect your life directly, like people in the General Assembly, in the House of Delegates, and State Senate. And every 4 years, we were, if you read the paper now, you can see what a huge difference losing that election last year. If you like where we're going, fine, good for you. But if you're really appalled by what's going on in Richmond and in the United States Congress, where the majority in the Senate and the U.S. House is at stake this November, please turn out to vote.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Delegate Sickles. This is a very informative talk. I'm glad that you were able to be here with us today.
I'm glad to be here. We'll talk to you soon. Come see us in Richmond when we're in session.
Of course.
Okay. Take care.